Alright, good evening everyone. Welcome to this week's session over here. So quick one, just a reminder of a disclaimer, right? Since we're talking about the markets over here as well as opportunities available for the week, just bear in mind that ideas presented, they do not directly translate to any sort of a financial advice or trade signals, right? And of course, everyone's style of trading is very different. So just make sure you are putting in place proper risk management. If you're taking any of the ideas and executing trades in the market as well. Okay. So as usual, what we're gonna do over here, I would run through the markets for the week. What are some of the directional buys that I have? What are some of the key things that I personally believe you want to keep a close watch for the week. And then, of course, if there are any kind of like questions, feel free to put it into the chat as well. Okay. We did had a pretty solid trade on euro dollar. Some of you may have been missed out on that because the entry price really come to as close as like less than a pip, really depending on the spread of the broker you're using as well. Okay, but this was actually last Friday's trade setup. We got tag in. Again, depending on really the spread, and then just today, we had a nice little run here to kind of capitalize on this 1:2 risk reward ratio, right? So yeah, so for those of you who managed to take it, I would say this is like the cleanest, easiest trade because there's really no drawdown, right? You got tag in and then instantly the market just moved in favor. Um, the other one that is doing pretty well is gold. Just very very close to our target. For those of you who took it as well on Friday, it got tagged in, and again, it's a fairly easy trade, not much of a drawdown. Getting very very close to our targets. Again, if you like to go for extended, by all means. But again, with a simple target here is about 1:2 risk to reward ratio, right? Pretty good start for this two trades here. Last week was generally a little bit more quiet. Not much trade activity. There are a couple of like trailing stops and things like that on certain pairs that depending on how you manage it, you might get out at break even, you might get out with some decent profits. But last week was generally quiet until Friday. We had like a couple of setups, right? And two of them here we have is the euro and the gold. Okay. So these are the two quick updates that I would have for now, right? And those are just the two active trades at the moment. So let's take a look into the overall market, what we can expect for the week. So dollar index first. Okay, dollar index as of now, we are anticipating a potential wait for completion around this area, right? We do see this as a simple 1, 2, 3 as well. The market gave us a very nice little reaction as of there. Um, the overall structure on the H4 time frame is neutral. Okay, it's neutral here. Um, I would say personally, I'm also neutral, right? I mean, sometimes I'll lean slightly towards bullish or bearish, but this one here I would stay just perfectly neutral. And I would like to observe how price would react off the 99.90. The reason being because if I zoom out a little bit so that we have a little bit more data points, what can happen is of course wave forward can be completed and we can expect the market to take out this low, right? Then that would be naturally the development of wave 5. Alternatively, what could also be looking at is that this pullback is simply um, a pullback correction of this leg, and wave 4 may not have fully completed because this can also continue higher to give us wave 4 here. Okay, and coming back to the zone before another move down, perfectly valid as well, right? So that wouldn't invalidate any of the wave 4 criteria. So I'm just a bit neutral right now. We were looking at short-term sell last week as well, right? That's the reason why we had the euro dollar buy opportunity. But since dollar index is getting pretty close towards the target at 99, probably you just want to see and observe our price is gonna react around that key area before kind of making any conclusion, whether to buy or sell, right? Okay. Now, obviously, we have this invalidation level over here at 99.15. I would say if price is able to take out that swing low, which is the invalidation level, then we can more or less confidently say that wave 4 is completed and we can start to look for downside, right? Okay, so that's my take on the dollar index. Keep watch on how price is going to react at 99.90. Okay. Then of course, if you go over to the euro, it's kind of just the inverse of it. Where wave 4 can be here. Short term, of course, we then just simply expect that true wave pullback, right? That's where we're looking at the short term buy last week going into this week. So again, it's getting very, very close to that target at 1.1320, right? So again, you want to see how price is going to react around that 50 pip, right? Essentially, it's just this key area here, right? If price actually breaks through with momentum, okay, and really able to take out, I would say, this kind of trend line structure impulsively, then that would again establish that, okay, wave 4 may be completed and we are looking for upside. Okay, so this one will require a little bit more confirmation from the market and really see how price would develop before we can make a conclusive kind of decision on whether to buy it or sell it. Okay? So that's on euro. GBP is a little bit different. GBP, I would say it's a little bit more. I'm a little bit more convinced that this would start to go higher. Okay. The reason is really because I would see this as a break. Okay. Of course, today is still a little bit early. If this just gives us a V-shaped formation back down, then that changes the entire story. But if this just continue just pull back like that, I would see this as a break of that trendline structure, and of course this would form the invalidation swing low, and we can expect upside. Okay, so of course it's not something that we're going to jump into a trade today, but GBP USD might be something to keep watch, right? I mean, it's in the list, but of course today market just broke the swing high, so the setup itself needs to be updated. What I do like about this so far, is that this move itself carries momentum, right? We do see like fair value gaps created here. Obviously, as it's going up, there's also fair value gap areas. But today is Monday, right? So I would also like to see how price is gonna pull back. If it comes down correctively, then we can see this as equal lows, as potential swing lows. Okay, if this market just decides to come down impulsively, I'll be careful, because then this would potentially serve as a big break, right, or what we call a liquidity sweep before the real move starts going higher, right? So definitely keeping a close watch on GBP USD, but at the moment that isn't an immediate kind of setup that says look for the buy and then key your entry, right? So yeah, that's on GBP USD. AUD USD over here are just gonna be neutral right now. In terms of like the trade plan, right? Market right now seems to be in a consolidation. Obviously there is the expectation here, where we can expect a simple three-wave development. Okay, which comes in very, very nicely to where that key level is as well, potentially forming this WXY structure, right? Yeah, so that would open up the possibility where you can look for a short-term sell, if the lower time frame really presents itself. But for me, it's not something that have like really convicted in executing. If you really want to look at it, there's some sort of a diagonal here. There's some liquidity strip at the top. There's this change of character, break structure. Technically, there is a setup that looks something like that. Okay. There is some minor confluence there as well. So you need to then, of course, make the assessment. Are you comfortable in taking this particular setup, right? Which you are on the high time frame trading the retracement. Okay. At the same time, I don't really see a kind of like clear impulsive move to downside, right? By what I mean by that in definition is um, this leg down didn't really create any sort of a fair value gap within it, right? So I'm just a little bit careful on that. Okay, so that's my take on the Aussie. Okay, dollar Canadian here, we're kind of expecting a simple three wave development, right? Three wave development towards a key area around the 1.3890 to 1.3860. If you can get that decent reaction, this will be a good area to consider looking for a buy trade setup. I think right now with this structured development, right, it's pretty clear this is a diagonal, this is an impulse leg, this looks to be a corrective wave, and we can then expect one more push back up, right? So I think, again, while the structure is still neutral, okay, the sequence is still neutral, I think we are transition towards being bullish, and therefore I'll be more interested to look for a buy. Okay, I don't have a clear buy structure right now or a buy setup right now. Okay, but I think what we can look out for is swing lows here. Okay, so if the market actually decides to pull back and break some of this swing low, right? Obviously on the high time frame that will be a channel. Then you can look for a setup, right? You can look for a internal liquidity sweep, change a character, and then a pullback, and that's your trade to take. Okay, so you can look for this on the lower time frame, on the hourly, and then you monitor your key area on the high time frame perspective. Right? So that's my take on the dollar Canadian for the week. Dollar yen here, I would be neutral for now. We kind of at a crossroad, right, where the market completed a three-wave structure, came into some key areas. This is the previous value gap, has a decent reaction down, currently testing again another key area. Okay, so why I say it's a crossroad, because price can either from here bounce back up, or from here just do a simple retracement, and then we can expect more downside, right? And then that will complete that pullback structure. So pretty similar to, I would say, like what we talk about in terms of like dollar index and euro dollar. This is just basically around that key area already. We want to see how price is going to react first. Okay, we want to see how price is going to develop first before kind of making that decision on whether to be looking at buy or sell, right? So right now, just being neutral, just being patient at the moment. Okay, gold. The structure here, I think, is pretty clear. We do have a channel. We do have a 1, 2, 3, a pretty decent bounce here as well. If you're looking at a high time frame, of course, the confirmation is for price to take out the swing high here, right? If you take out the swing high, then that gives you a little bit more conviction that, oh, this is a low, okay, and we can start looking for it upside. But I think if you jump in a little bit early and say that, this is a fine little reaction on the V, to start anticipating the market starting to go higher, I think it's decent as well, right? Because we have like contacts of 1, 2, 3 being completed. We have that fit, very nice little move here as well. Right, so I think gold here moving forward would naturally be looking for upside. Okay, and how far this can go depending on your targets, right? You can look out for initially just the top of the channel. You can look at this swing high here, or you can look at the previous high, and then you can also anticipate that gold might break its all-time high. Okay, so definitely looking for upside. Again, this one here, we have a trade that I would really just consider this as a high probability gonna hit the target. I mean, that's just a little bit. I mean, if you're in, you're just probably just gonna kind of move your stop initially to break even, and right now you can even consider trading up to here, right? Just kind of protect about 1:1. Yeah, so I think this will easily, take out that high. If that's gonna be the case, what we can do is look out for opportunities to see if price pulls back, and we have another opportunity to buy into that. Okay. Yeah, so that's on gold. I think that's pretty straightforward. Right. Silver here is a little bit different from what gold is doing. Okay, gold had a pretty clear structure that we can look for upside, but silver now is a bit mixed, right? I mean, it's in huge consolidation. Whether this consolidation is done or not, I think right now we want to wait for more confirmation, right? Ideally, we want to see price kind of take out this high, okay, with certain momentum. Then the pullback itself would start presents a buy opportunity. But until then, I'll stay patient, right? I'll stay neutral for this because the price is essentially just in the range. Okay. Crude oil here, to me, is pretty clear as well. I think the market is currently developing some sort of a three-wave pullback, right? So this is the W, this is the three-wave pullback that we can anticipate. Somewhere around that area would be a potential area that we can look to buy, right? So around $60, right? Or to be exact, like 59.60. Okay, 59.60. So that will be the key zone to look out for potential buy. Okay. We can also see this as a potential kind of like a double bottom structure. Okay, and of course, if that's gonna be a double bottom, this is your neckline, right? Yeah. So you kind of like it hasn't broke the neckline, but we're kind of anticipating that U-turn, right? The reason is because this is pretty impulsive to me, right? So if this just comes down like that, that will be perfect. Okay, opportunities around there. Okay, so keep an eye on crude oil. Right now, this here has a little bit of a potential setup, but of course, really depends on how price develop on the day-to-day basis. Probably can update this a little bit to see how things go forward. Okay, so that's on crude oil. S&P definitely bullish. The only thing, of course, right now you don't want to be buying at the very, very top. Okay, you want to wait for price to pull back before getting involved in it. Okay, so definitely buy trade setup, but I think on the lower time frame, if you want to get involved into it, you need for the market to pull back, and it's gonna take time. Now, of course, then you'll be thinking, oh, if the market is gonna pull back, if you anticipate a pullback, can't we just look for sell? Yeah, you can, right? So today, if I kind of take the Fibs, right, and kind of measure this from, let's say, swing low to swing high, to be very, very conservative, let's just put it around the 50% mark. Okay, which again has a pretty decent kind of confluence here as well. So if you anticipate the market to pull back, minimally towards this, can you trade the sell side of things? Yes, right. Given if you understand the overall context of what you're trading, given that you have a setup to allow you to execute that sell. Okay. So if you go down to a lower time frame, there are some conditions and criteria that is building up, I would say. If you're familiar with some of the concepts and principle of SMC, this would essentially be your liquidity sweep. Okay, where the market break above it, and it's now coming down. If you can take out this low, okay, meaning the market breaking close below it with momentum, this will be a change of character, and then this will be a liquidity sweep, and that itself will present a sell opportunity, right? Then you can look into whether you want to trade a short-term move towards pull back 50% mark. Alright, so that's something to note. But I think it's probably gonna take a while, maybe 1 or 2 days. Those of you are interested into like S&P or NASDAQ in terms of indices in general can keep watch. Maybe Wednesday to Thursday onwards, right? The yen pairs GBP JPY very, very similar to the dollar yen. We're at a key area. We'll see how the market is going to react off here first. Odd yen, slightly different. Odd yen here, I'm actually pretty interested to see if we can get a sell setup. The subtle difference, of course, is for pound yen, right? The build up towards this high is not the clearest as compared to odd yen. Okay. To me, if I were to zoom out a little bit, okay, you can see that pound yen carries a little bit more momentum to the upside, right? Kind of tag that high. Okay. Aussie yen kind of did that as well. But I see this as a little bit more of a not as strong kind of move as compared to the pound yen, right? And of course, you can also see that in terms of like GBP USD, is pushing a little bit up. But Aussie yen isn't. Sorry, Aussie dollar isn't, right? So if you kind of look at that too, then odd seems to be a little bit weaker as compared to the pound. Okay. And in terms of like the recent development, you can see here odd yen came down with momentum. Pound yen, yes, but we didn't manage to take out this low here, right? Whereas odd yen, we did attempt to clear off some of this with momentum. Okay, and it doesn't crawl from here. Okay, so that's like those subtle difference help me to just filter out and focus on one. Most of the time the yen pairs move in similar direction. It's just a matter of like which one are you more comfortable in focusing on, right? Because I don't want to be focusing on both anyway. And then for me, I'm just gonna pick the odd yen. Okay. So what I'm anticipating here on odd yen, right, is that yes, it's bullish definitely, but after this entire move here, I would just simply look to expect a true wave pullback. Okay. So this pullback perhaps can come back towards like the zone here. If we're gonna take like swing low to swing high all the way, that will put you around like 50% mark, which is something we can look to capitalize in the near term, right? And that's the part where I'm looking to trade the pullback, right? So kind of a little bit of a counter trend. And of course, if I bring you to like hourly, there are some potential setups building here, right? Of course, you can see the price broke that high, but then reverses and kind of took out that low here as well. And then as it drops, right, there is also like fair value gap created with momentum, right? As I mentioned, that's what give the extra layer confluence. So of course, if this decides to just pull back nicely towards the area, okay, that will be an opportunity that we can sell. Right? So the setup is really building up over here. Just need to give it time, and then if everything still stays the same, then that's your trade setup. Okay. GBP US, GBP AUD. This one here is where we had a trade, I think like 2 weeks back, that got tagged in, and then of course depending on how you manage it, you may get out at trading stops, with profits, or you may end up just having that trade break even and exit. Okay, whatever it is, you probably want to get out of that trade and just relook for the next opportunity already, right? Our time frame structure, I think nothing has really changed, right? I'm still anticipating downside because as long as this high is still there, we are looking at this being the impulse leg and then this being the corrective leg. Okay, unless price can take out the invalidation level, right? So of course we are coming back to this key zone. Will this form some sort of a double top? Might be as well, right? If you look at the lower time frame, we haven't really break this high. But what can happen is the market can just take time and then break that high. And then of course this would be the confirmation of the change of character or break of structure, right? So if the market comes back down, then that's your liquidity, that's your break of structure, and then you look to sell. Okay. Yeah, so I think that will be the setup that we're looking out for right now. Okay, so pound odd here. Structurally, it's pretty clear. We just need to wait for the conditions to actually execute the trade. Right. Lastly, here is Bitcoin. Okay. So Bitcoin here is bullish overall. I would assume that everyone can see this is very clear, right? The momentum is there. Yes, we have a little bit of a crawl, so we expect a pullback. But we'll see this pullback as just simply a buy opportunity. Okay, on top of that, of course, you have like break of structure here, fair gap, momentum is there. Can you take the short-term sell as a pullback? For me, not really. Just because if you go down to the lower time frame, there's really nothing clear, right? Okay, even that trade there I didn't share because I was just simply monitoring and observing, right? It's not a high probability trade. Okay. Yeah, so I think Bitcoin here, you probably don't want to anticipate and kind of look to catch the short-term sell. I would personally just suggest wait for this to complete, pull back. Look for the buy instead, right? You would rather look for the buy setup down there after the pullback is completed instead of like looking to sell it. Okay. Yeah, so these are some of the things I have. I think generally, okay, your dollar is done, gold is more or less done. Crude oil, that's something that we can look out for as of today. Aussie yen here as well. Pound yen, pound odd probably would need a little bit of time, right? So, I mean, to me, the clearest one that would probably stand out right now is the odd yen. I mean, today is a little bit early, but if this just continue to pull back, then tomorrow you can set a pending order if it have aligned with trade plan that you have. Crude oil here as well. Okay. Yeah, I think this two right now, based on what we're seeing, it's like the clearer ones, right? And of course, the others would really need to also depend on how price is going to develop after today. Okay. So yeah, one of you is asking about odd dollar, Aussie dollar. We talked about that already. Then euro pound, right? So let's take a look at euro pound. Cool. Let me just clean up a little bit on the previous analysis that I drew. Okay. Great. So price is actually currently back here, which is a key level, right? Okay. So simple structure analysis. Okay, you have the swing low, the market went up, pull back, break of that. Currently is pulling back, right? Back to some key level. From this structure perspective, as long as price is still trading above the swing low, you expect upside, right? Okay. You can see here is bearish because internally this is coming down, right? So again, don't just trade because don't just sell, right? Because it's bearish, or don't just buy because that's bullish. That's like one aspect of the analysis. Okay, so what I'm seeing here on a 4-hour time frame perspective, right, is that the market seems to be respecting this area as of now. Okay, it seems to be respecting this pretty nicely. Potentially also developing what we can see now as a liquidity sweep at the bottom, and then if price can break this, okay, you will get a buy setup from there, right? Because then this will be a liquidity sweep, break of structure, pull back, look for the buy. All right. So that's the closest thing you can look out for. Okay. And if you want to go down to a lower time frame, then this here can also be a liquidity sweep. Then that would be your, structure high that you want to see price breaks above. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's what you can look out for in terms of like euro pound, right, to the upside. Okay. Okay. Follow-up question: if euro pound switch to higher time frame, does it look like breaking of trend line? I would say, okay, for me on a high time frame, right? This pair, it's just gonna be pretty difficult to analyze the overall trend. Because it's a cross pair, right? So cross pair like Euro Pound, cross pair like Aussie New Zealand. Oftentimes you're gonna kind of see like choppiness in the market. Like while it's going down, you can see it's overlapping a lot. If it's going up, it's also overlapping a lot, right? Because they are closely kind of related, right? So on the high time frame, to be honest, I would just see it as this is the anti-trading range, right? This is the anti-trading range. Okay. So if you're talking about like really clear trends on higher time frame, there isn't anything that really stands out. So if you're trading pairs like that, right, you probably would just want to focus on like a range bound kind of environment. Okay, meaning if it's coming down, you're just looking to buy near the bottom and then take profits near the top, and then that's about it, right? You're probably not gonna be expecting kind of like breaking of new highs and lows. Okay. Yeah, so to me, I think the trend line may not be the best way to analyze trend for pairs like this, right? Like Euro, Pound, and Aussie Kiwi. USD, South African Rand. Okay, this is a very, very long time analysis. Let me just clean up. Cool. Hey, I would say depending on what lens you want to put in, right? Are you looking at, again, the thing about this is the thing about technical analysis is like depending on what techniques and principles you look at it, it might give you a different conclusion, right? That's why sometimes traders say they're looking to sell, some traders are looking to buy. At the end of the day, there's no like the best, right? But for me, if you're looking at it from let's say structure perspective first, right? Initially we are moving at a higher high, higher low, okay, and then price is currently testing this, right? I mean, so far it's not a clean break yet, but kind of testing that, right? So let's assume if it breaks through, then we are in a shift, okay, from high 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 low to breaking this low, right? So that will be a shift. Now if you're looking at wave perspective, then this entire leg might be a completed wave cycle, and this pullback here would probably be developing in waves of 3. Okay, and what we can then expect is short term this may pull back to give us maybe one more drop. Okay, which then opens up the short term buy opportunity, right? Okay, so with that said, I don't think you want to be focusing on sell at where we are, right? In terms of like the context of where it is, you probably don't want to sell it unless price breaks through and does a pullback, right? Then yeah, you can potentially look to sell, but at the moment, probably you just want to wait for maybe some short-term pullback to the buy side, or even potentially reverse. Okay, so some patterns to consider for upside, okay, is number one, if this develops into a crawl, that would indicate high probability to the upside. Of course, you can add in like RSI divergence. The other one is, of course, this sweeps below and then pulls back up, right? So again, giving you that liquidity break of structure combination. Okay, and of course, as this breaks, ideally you will see some kind of momentum push, right? Which can be indicative by a fair value gap. Okay. Yeah, so that's my take on this particular pair. Again, if you go down to a lower time frame, you do have that liquidity sweep. All you need is price to take out this high, right? Which is pretty similar to the H4 anyway that I've covered just now. Okay, so yeah, that's the take on this particular pair. All good? Cool, yeah, so generally that's about it from my side. Yeah, I mean, you don't need a lot of trades, right? And then of course sometimes trades comes early of the week, sometimes trades comes closer towards the end of the week. But for those of you who are looking at not gonna be being super active, every day. On average, maybe if you're okay, comfortable with taking like maybe 2 trades, 3 trades on average on a week to week basis, then this is typically what I get, right? Looking at this list of instruments on the right. Trading between 1 hour and 4 hour time frames, I generally get about 2-3 trades on average on a week to week basis. Okay, which is pretty chill to be honest. So if that's something that aligns with your style, then this is the time frames you can consider as well. And then on typical week, you get about average 2 trades. Okay, good. Yeah, so that's all from me for this week's update over here. Definitely a couple of things that are worth looking into and being watched for the week. And we'll see how the market is going to develop from here. Okay, and as usual, going to update you guys on the report on the day-to-day basis as well. So, yep, all the best, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay.